And I feel like me and Steph, we come from very different backgrounds, and obviously today we'll kind of learn how we got to where we are today, being together. But I think a big piece for me that's a part of my identity is me being Kenyan, me being an immigrant. I think those are really big pieces that have kind of shaped where I am today. Yeah, I was born in Kenya, came to Canada when I was 6. Basically, my parents were looking for just new beginnings for their family. And yeah, I got here. I was a little boy who was very, very concerned about the weather. I feel like for a lot of people, especially when you're moving to a new country, and when you're moving to this side of the world, especially, all you have to kind of go off of is TV. And I used to watch a lot of like daytime soap operas with my grandmother, and they were all from like the States, so like California.
Okay.
So when my parents told me that we were moving to Canada, my thoughts were it's going to be warm weather,
Palm trees,
beaches.
beaches.
Exactly. So when we got here and we arrive in September, and the weather's literally getting like colder and colder, it was a big shock. Anyways, yeah.
That's I find that interesting because I think that's like a lot of immigrants share that sort of experience.
Absolutely.
Going back to like when you were younger, I always find that a good picture into what your upbringing was like was a typical day when you were a kid. What was that like?
That's a good question. A typical day into my life. Wow, as a kid.
Pick any age. Pick your best age.
I feel like you should do 2. You should do when you're like 5 and younger, because he's given me that day in the life before.
Okay.
And then when you came to Canada.
Yeah, so 5. Okay, yeah, we'll go 5 and younger. So me, like early days in Kenya, I was the happiest kid in the world. My family, we all lived in the same like area. So we're talking all the cousins that you can imagine, we all lived really close to each other.
It's funny. One of the previous guests mentioned that I feel like we all have core memories of cousins.
Oh yeah,
just like all being in the same place, being like being just rowdy, basically.
Yep. Yeah, like it was good vibes. It was family vibes. It was community vibes. Yeah, I hung around a lot with my grandmother. She used to do a lot of like, farming. So like, in the morning she would milk the cows, and I was just.
So it wasn't a city setting.
No. So my family lives just outside Nairobi. So we're kind of like the borderline, the border of what's considered the city. We live right at the border, right outside. Interesting.
So when you say milking cows, I don't think a lot of people had that experience in their childhood growing up.
Yeah, it was. It's funny because it's kind of something that we share too.
Yeah.
With Steph's upbringing.
Yeah, we'll get to Steph. I feel like we're gonna find parallels, but a lot of also differences.
That's the story of our lives.
Yeah. It was fun. Like my experience in Kenya, even though it was I only lived there for 6 years of my life, I just had a lot of really wonderful memories, and they were just filled with, once again, just family. I say all the time, like I started drinking tea when I was like 3.
Is that safe?
Yeah,
for a kid.
I don't know if it's safe. I definitely burned myself a few times, right? But it was just, I'd wake up, I'd walk all the way down to my grandmother's house, and she would have tea, some bread.
Walk by yourself?
Yeah, by myself.
And safety not an issue.
Safety's not an issue. Oh. It's not even a thought. I don't think. Like we all live in the same area. We all know each other. Wow. So that was just kind of the way of life.
Interesting. I find that, if anything, I would say you're lucky to remember that.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people, especially like that move here at young ages, just have like very faint memories of like, or no memories at all of growing up. But moving over to you, Steph. The first question was just like, what do I need to know about like earliest days that like would help me make sense of you now?
Totally. I think the biggest thing I can think of at a high level of young me is I was so shy growing up, which I feel like it surprises them now.
Hard to believe that now.
Yeah, like I get nervous for things still, but otherwise I wouldn't say I'm shy now. And I always feel like I was an extrovert trapped in like a shy body. So at home, like my parents didn't know me to be shy. Like they knew that I was, but when I was at home, like I'm having fun. I'm the oldest sibling, younger brother. I totally was the oldest. Like I My brother was doing all my chores. He was doing all my tasks. I tell him I'd pay him like a nickel, never would. Like he was doing anything I wanted for me.
Yeah.
We were really close growing up too, though. But yeah, otherwise I was like confident in myself, but really shy in public settings. I think it's from growing up in like countryside. My grandparents had a farm, similar.
So a lot of cow milking.
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't personally do it, but I was on the farm with them. So tons of like running around in the land.
I just have
Tons
to
of animals
say
around.
something real quick. If you guys ever decide to have kids and they don't milk cows, I'll be very disappointed.
I don't know if I could see it happening, to be honest, because we're such city people
like,
now.
we're pretty like city people.
Yeah.
Okay. Just say.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, I had a very clear sense of who I was, I think, when I was young, but I didn't know how to express it yet. Like, I was a shy kid. My family's all very similar, and I'd say I'm the one that's kind of different in a way. Like, I always wanted to move to the city. I wanted to see more things. I was always reading books, and like, New York was to me, that was the city. I didn't know about Toronto. I knew about New York because it was in all the books.
So you grew up very ambitious.
Yeah, like, I guess.
Or like
I just,
silently ambitious.
Yeah, like silently. Like I didn't know what it was that I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to move and see more things. I knew I needed to break the bubble. I knew I was in a bubble, I guess. I didn't know what it was or what it meant, but I knew I was in one.
What age do you remember this, like having this like realization?
It's funny, I have pretty young memories too, similar to Dennis,
Yeah,
which is interesting. Some people don't. But I would say pretty young. Like I remember in the 3rd grade, so I was 8. I had already been having all these thoughts for years. And I was very shy at school. So I got made fun of a lot. I think just because I was so passive. So like didn't stand up for myself.
Okay.
And my mom tells me, and I kind of remember that I came home from school one day and I was like, I don't want to be the shy kid anymore. Like I said that
Like
to her
explicitly,
verbatim. Yeah,
wow.
like age 7 or 8.
This is like a Disney movie.
Well, it was very specific. Well, apparently, because I always knew I didn't have to be, but I just wasn't working on it yet. So I think at age 7 or 8 is when I started working on changing myself into who I wanted to be more and who I felt like I was inside, but wasn't really expressing yet. So I think that was a big thing for me. But otherwise, yeah, I was around my family a lot. For me, I only have 4 cousins. They're all much younger than me. So growing up, it was more with adults. I was really close to my parents, my grandparents. We went to their house every single day after school. So they have the farm and we live 2 fields over. So we're really close, but in country terms, really close.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always around them and just playing a lot of sports, trying to break out of my shy shell.
Interesting. In being shy, like, do you remember any stories from just being a shy kid that you're like, that's a core memory?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I have a few. One of the early ones was around the other girls at school. So I went to a really small school, being out in the country. We had 14 kids in my grade.
Oh, wow.
Crazy.
Yeah,
In
7 boys, 7 girls.
The grade, not the class, just the grade.
In the grade, every single class was split. So I never was up until grade 8, I was always in a split class. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6,
Wow.
5, 6, 7, 8, like always split classes because it was so small. So yeah, there was 7 girls, 7 guys, young in age. You know, you kind of only hang out with the girls. There's 7 of us, and I was definitely like the most shy one. So I'm in school, and I remember the time. This is, I think, what prompted me to have that I don't want to be shy anymore. This is why it's a core memory. But I went out to recess. I was a little bit late because I had to talk to my teacher about something. And I told the girls, I'm like, yeah, I'll be out in like 2 minutes. Wait for me. I come outside and I don't see anyone from my class. I'm like, where are they? Like, I see the other grades outside, not them. I'm wandering around. I'm looking for them. They're all hiding over a hill, laughing that I can't like find them. Wow. And I was like, oh. I don't like how this feels.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So that was one of my like, I don't want to be shy because they weren't even doing it for any reason other than they could because I wasn't standing up for myself and being part of the group.
And it was because you were shy, they probably chose to do that.
100%, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like that. Everyone else, you know, I remember them outgoing, playing around with each other, and I was more like I didn't contribute much because I was shy. That was one of the early ones.
Just finally on, I guess, early days, when did you make that switch? Did it come later in life, like in terms of just being more intentional about like being outgoing, talking to people? Do you think that came as an adult, or like it was more, there was an age you remember that, okay, this is different stuff?
I think I really started working on it right then because it was slowly, it wasn't like a quick switch. It was like I gradually worked on it. But I always say, I describe my like childhood like this, where I liked middle school more than elementary school. I liked high school more than middle school. I liked university more than high school because every time I was becoming more
perfect.
myself. So everything's always been an elevation up. So it's been like gradual, but
Nice.
Life's
feel like-
gotten gradually better.
yeah, it's gone gradually better. I'd say I hit my full like confidence in high school for sure, but it still kept growing after that. Like I gained more independence in school
I
afterwards.
think that's an amazing just precursor for your life in terms of, seems like your life is always getting better.
Yeah.
So your next 5 years should be better than your last 5 years.
That's the goal.
That's just amazing.
I'm
right?
always talking about it like that too, actually.
And
like
then
Yeah.
like you just peak by becoming the prime minister of Canada at some point.
Is that the top?
Yeah,
Then yes.
that's like mentally like government. Like I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just
Came
that's
to
just,
mind,
yeah. That's what just came to me. So in terms of parallels and differences, what can you, other than cow milking, what can you draw? What parallels can you draw between your childhoods and what differences? The most significant one.
Good question.
That is a good question. I feel like
That's the third good question, just for the
Yeah, we're
record,
gonna
right?
keep saying
That's just
it's
just-
good.
Yeah, in case like CNN or anyone's watching.
Interview of the year.
Yeah, right.
I like that. Parallels. Yeah, I feel like we share the side where it's like, you growing up in the countryside, me also having that experience prior to like coming to Toronto and having the city experience. I will say though, like Steph talking about her experience with only having 7 kids in her grade, like
Yeah.
that is
Not yours.
a very, very different reality from anyone who grew up in Toronto or in the big city, right? Like you're just used to having hundreds, if not thousands, of kids at your school, right? So
Yeah.
very, very different experience, right?
I always say that I feel like we're, some couples are opposites in every way or very similar. We're both. We have like our core selves are very similar, but then our experiences and what we've grown up around, or
what
whatever it might
shaped
be,
us, yeah.
what shaped us very,
Very
different.
different,
But somehow our thought process on things have ended up being similar. So I feel like that's the biggest one. Like I talked about growing into being more confident, more independent. He's like, I feel like you were always like that, but we're
Yeah.
both have that similarity.
Yeah. I
Like
mean,
we have a vision that we work towards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I was more so forced to be more confident in a way. Like,
Is that just to confirm? Is that like being the first kid of an immigrant family?
oh, 100%.
Is that just like you just have to play that role as like almost like a second dad?
Oh yeah. Like you,
Yeah.
my dad used to tell me every day, you are a reflection of me when I'm not there. Right. So what that means is, I feel like we've all heard it, like setting a good example. Right. I tell my brother all the time, like I walk so he can run. Like
He rolls his
the
eyes.
funny things that he's doing now, that he's getting to do now, that my
Yeah.
parents let him do.
Yeah.
I was like, it would have been crazy if I had done
Yeah.
the stuff that he's doing now.
Do
you know?
do you know that Drake meme from when the Raptors won the championship? Where it's like, look at this. This wasn't like before. This was us. Like before this, there was
Yep,
none of this,
yep,
right?
yep,
before
yep.
us, there was none of this. That's how
Yep.
you felt like about.
That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah,
Exactly
yeah.
how I felt.